Welcome to today's video. This is going to be a two-part video. You have Jesse, you have Jackson, you have Channel Junkies. And so with today's show, this is going to be interesting. This is on our YouTube channel for Liftoff Agent. We want to go deeper on the processes behind the scenes, what's happening from the perspective of conversion. So if you're filming content and you have a website, how do you maximize that conversion? Not to mention, if you're on YouTube and you want to scale your business, what does it look like to actually remove yourself and stop transacting? Today, we actually have one of the co-founders of Channel Junkies, and we work with him and his partner, Jackson, with Liftoff Agent. And it was amazing. You got to watch the other full show that we just recorded with Jackson, because he talked about how Jesse, I think they hired a mentor or a coach and got to a point where they're like, you know what, like, you got to get out of production, Jesse. And Jesse's like, what? I'm the fucking best. Why would I get out of production? And so we have the man on the show right now, or should I say just a video. This isn't even really a podcast. This is just a video for YouTube. We're going to be cutting this thing up, putting it out there. Jesse, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to just pour into individuals out there in the industry of real estate, just to think about what does that look like? You know, it's one thing to get on YouTube, film content, passively prospect, links down below, check out these guys. But it's a whole nother thing to be like, hey, like, what does scale look like? What does removing myself out of production look like? And yeah, D, I'm super excited to vibe out and pour into our industry, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. So like that whole situation was very different, because what happened is it's kind of like a two-layered process of the way that whole situation went down.
Okay.
So somebody actually reached out to us early on when the Portland channel, which is like the flagship channel that we ever launched. Now we've kind of moved the Houston channel to flagship because that's where Jackson lives.
Yeah.
And I live in Idaho. So like, that just tells you right there, it is scalable without you being in the business. We live in multiple different locations. We've started channels all over the country. But what happened was we had the channel going in Portland. Somebody reached out and was like, hey, would you guys be interested in selling me your channel as like a lead generation platform? But
Really?
They also and they like wanted us to be like, they were basically trying to recruit us essentially. So I told Jackson, I was like, that's kind of weird. And I'm like, let me just contact an attorney and see what that whole thing would look like. Because what I've learned is like YouTube owns your channel. Like They can shut you down. They're the true owners, but we're using YouTube as like a lead generation platform. So when I went through that process, what I learned is that the lawyer said, well, the first question he actually asked was, well, do you guys have to be like integrated with the business? Because that's going to change the valuation significantly. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? He's like, are you having to answer the calls? Do you have to make the content? Do you have to work with the clients? I was like, well, I think we do have to make the content. I said, as far as the last two pieces of the puzzle go, I don't know. I said, let me find out and get back to you. So literally the next day I'm sitting in the office and the lead number rang, and my buyer's agent at the time was sitting there. We'd brought her she was in the title and escrow industry for 25 years. Now she's our team lead in Portland, Heather. And I said, hey, answer this call and tell them that we're out filming content and that we're unavailable, but you'll be the one working with them. So we didn't know any of the process at this time. So she's freaking out, dude. She's like, I'm not going to answer it. I'm like, no, you need to answer it. So she answers it. The lady's like, hi, is Jackson there? And she's like, Jackson's actually out filming some videos, but I work with all of the clients contacting us through YouTube. Like, how can I help you? And she's like, how do you know I'm calling from YouTube? She's like, well, you called the number from the YouTube channel. So this is very common occurrence. The lady's like, oh yeah, my name is Cascade, and I'm actually relocating from Florida, blah, 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 blah. So it worked flawlessly.
Wow.
And that client has actually done 3 deals with us, which is great. And so then we kind of tweaked and refined that process. And so we went back to the attorney. He's like, now your business is actually worth like 10 times more than what it would be worth if you couldn't do that. So I'm like, that's real interesting. So that was like right in the beginning of like 2020. It was actually like in like January.
Okay.
Fast forward, this is in like the beginning of COVID, and we're in like COVID shutdown in Portland.
Yeah.
Even before this time, Jackson and I were like adamant about not filming home tour style videos. And like, we get a lot of people from our early days saying, you guys only do home tours now, and you said never to do home tours. Before COVID, nobody cared about the house.
Yeah.
It was the last thing on their mind. 3-bed, 2-bath. It was all about location independence. They wanted to be able to travel. Tiny homes were a cool thing. All of these things. When COVID hit everybody was now work from home. Space was important. Location was important. They didn't want to be in the city. They were scared of the riots, all the things. So we just, at that time, the content started to shift dramatically too. So when people say that, that's the reason why.
Yeah.
House now is number one thing for them. So we use like the home tours, really nice model homes as eye candy, essentially, to stimulate the viewer. And we use it as like a lead magnet. We had tested the Seattle market that we needed to scale the business and be on a platform that we could go into multiple different markets. But what I started to realize, and I was still pretty new into real estate. I started in in July of 2017. So I'm coming up on to 8 years.
Okay.
And I didn't know that every real estate business for the most part was a franchise. So I started going to these different companies and interviewing because I'd done that when I got into real estate.
Yeah.
I'm now at this point where I'm like, okay, we need to be like, I don't know what expansion looks like. But what I started to realize is after I interviewed like my 6th brokerage, and I started asking them about like, what does it look like if I want to open in the Seattle market? Or what happens if I want to open in the Boise market? Like, what does that look like? Nobody could ever really give me an answer. And then like some people would say like, oh, we have this expansion model. And I'm like, that's weird. So I remember going out into my car after the Remax interview, and I'm sitting in my car and I'm like, this is crazy. Everyone is telling me the same thing. So I Google like, what does Keller Williams, Remax, and Century 21 have in common? And all of a sudden it says, these are franchise brokerages. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, they're all franchise. I actually worked in the brewing industry for like 20 years before real estate.
Okay.
And 7-Eleven is exactly the same. There's like 6 or 7 different 7-Eleven franchise owners. Corporate does own some locations, but those are the only, like typically the failing franchisees. But like there's all these micro owners in these different markets. And then ones that own multiple locations sometimes get better deals than the ones that are different, but they still operate as indies. So then in real estate, it made sense to me because I'm like, I'm at the brokerage I'm at now. There's 2 different franchise owners in Oregon and Washington, and we're right on the border. So you have to be licensed in both states. I'm paying 2 fees. I'm paying 2 caps, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. So I literally Googled, what are the non-franchise real estate platforms? Because I realized I needed one brokerage that I could expand with to speak one language.
Yeah.
And EXP was there. And I'm like, And I'd already been recruited by all these EXP agents. And at that time, it was super early in the game with EXP. So I'd had my real estate coach went to EXP, and he'd always been harping on me about it. And finally I called him. I'm like, dude, I'm ready to look. Because they weren't solving my problem at that point in time. Yeah. They were all trying to like, you can come over, you can recruit, you can retire. They were all shoving this revenue share. Dude, I'm a producing agent. I don't want to know about that. I want to know how to expand my business. That's the problem with recruiters and a lot of these revenue share models. Is they're not trying to solve agents' pain points. They're just trying to like plug them in and then earn the residuals off the top. And that's why I've been so successful with agent attraction as well. But going back to this piece, I look at it, they open up the whole platform. This was the only brokerage that did that, by the way. So if you're a recruiter watching this, nobody would show me their CRMs. Nobody would show me their secret sauces. EXP's like, we're an open book. Here's everything we have to offer. Yeah. I spent 2.5 hours on this call. I was so mind blown. And I saw the vision right in front of me. Yeah. Like, I can expand this so fast. I end up coming into the model. And I spend 30 days and I said, I'm going to interview every top agent here. And I'm going to start a podcast about what it's like to be here. Cause I didn't see that on social media. So I started this podcast. I'm interviewing like Brian Casella, Tina Call, Chuck Fazio, Kyle Whistle, all of the names. Yeah. I get to Chuck, and Chuck's like, I'm in this, I own this 900 agent brokerage. I shut it down to come to EXP. And then so like offline, I'm like, how do I expand my business and scale this? And he goes, tell me how you generate leads. And I said, honestly, I have this YouTube business, and I walk him through the platform. He goes, you're telling me people call you to buy houses and you're not like putting them into a drip or a, like squeeze page or anything? I'm like, yes. Yeah. He's like, you need to step out of production immediately. Let the agents close the deals. And he's like, you will see the business 10X immediately. Dude, this one phone call, we were literally on the phone for less than 60 minutes. And he said, you have to trust the process. I do the interview. Yeah. I hang up the phone. I called Jackson. I said, hey, I just met with this guy. And Jackson had seen him do GSD mode podcast like 2 years before that. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know Chuck was in my like organization at EXP until this call. We figured it out when we put the pieces together. Yeah. I called Jackson and I said, remember that guy that did that killer interview that had that crazy office that was like 60,000 square feet where he put the bar and all this stuff? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I go, I just interviewed that guy. And I said, he's in our upline here at EXP. And I said, you know what he said I need to do? He said, I'm the problem with our model and that I need to step out of production and we need to scale this thing. And Jackson's like, he's like, so what are you gonna do? I said, I'm done selling real estate. And I stopped that day.
Wow.
I stopped. I literally was like, okay, it's either sink or swim. Fast forward 12 months later, our business went from 12 million to 50 million.
Wow.
Fast forward the next 12 months, we went from 50 to 93 million. So basically, I always say 100, but it was 93.
Wow.
And all it was, and I told Jackson, I said, here's what we need to do. We're going to go to all these markets. We're going to start up channels. We're going to go to these teams and say, hey, we created this platform. You can close a couple deals. And if you want to keep moving forward with this, you need to bring your team to EXP. Because the system inside, like doing the referrals sucks unless you're at EXP. So then we basically set this model up like Zillow Flex, where you close our deals and you pay us on the closed transactions. If you get a referral off of that, a resale, you keep that 100%. We're going to be the lead generation machine. So we went through and we did that in 11 states. And our deal with the agents early was like 50-50 split. We'll make the first 20 videos, then you have to keep making it. And everyone thinks it's great up front. Everyone's like, yeah, we'll do it. I'm like, I'll pay for the editing. I'll pay for the channel management. Jackson makes it look real easy.
Yeah.
So he goes out there, does it. At this time, before we had the 11 channels, so fast forward to the summer of love in 2020.
Yeah.
I'm living downtown Portland. Crap's hitting the fan. The riots are literally like blocks from my condo. And I called Jackson in August, or was it in July 2020? And I said, Jackson, dude, I said, I'm so sick of this, dude. The mayor lived next door to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was even worse at my place.
Jeez.
And I'm like, Jackson, I said, dude, I can't handle this anymore. I'm sick of this. I said, I got to get out of here. And he's like, I was literally just talking to my wife last night about moving back to Texas. I'm like, I don't know why you're still here. I'm like, I would be gone a long time ago. He's like, I can leave. I'm like, 100%, dude. He literally has me list his house 2 weeks later. He beelines it to Houston. He's like, where are you going to go? So I'd had that call with Chuck. My coach lived in Gilbert, Arizona by you.
Yeah.
My other upline partner, Curtis Johnson, is in Gilbert also.
Wow.
And Chuck was in Chandler. So I'm like, I'm either going to go to Dallas or I'm going to go to Phoenix because these are the two biggest opportunistic markets for YouTube. But where can I leverage it the most? I'm like, Phoenix has my whole crew. So I said, this is a no-brainer. I'm going to Phoenix. I'll start a channel.
Wow.
On my way down there, there was fires going on too. So all my stuff got stuck on a train. So I lived out of I actually lived in Vegas for a month at my buddy's house while my stuff was in transit because they lost my stuff supposedly.
Oh my God.
On my way down there, this agent calls me, Cheryl Willis, which she is now our channel partner in Phoenix. She's like, hey, I saw on this podcast you're moving to Phoenix. I love what you guys have built. I would love to be the agent to close all your business down here. Not my organization at EXP, nothing. I literally drive into Phoenix. I didn't even go to my house. I meet her for lunch. We sign the deal at the table. And this is like, I'm just like, I like to move very quickly if you can't tell. Like, I'm just like, boom. And we sign the deal. And then that's when things like really exploded. That's like when we went from like 50 to 100 million was like all of this. But also at that time, everyone was free to move about the country. So if you were to back this thing up before YouTube exploded, dude, I dropped 100K on social media. I was all in on video because when my background was in digital and social marketing in the brewing industry before real estate. So I went through the transition of where we went from 100% TV, radio, and billboard to digital and social. And we're calling on like 7-Eleven headquarters, Walmart headquarters. Dude, these people are like, you're stupid. This is like 2012, dude. And we were like, our business in that industry, I went from 250 million to 500 million in 1 year without adding a product line. That's insane. Because what we realized is that you could buy digital and social media back then. You could get 200 times the amount of impressions than you could on TV and radio for the same money. And you could target the consumers.
Huge.
So in the brewing and tobacco, and the ATF has a lot of regulation on alcohol and smoking.
Yeah, can imagine.
Advertising. Obviously, you don't even see cigarettes anymore. But in the brewing industry, it's very, the reason it's not as strict in the brewing is because it's the number one revenue generator for lobbyists in Washington, D.C. That's why there's not as much regulation on alcohol.
Interesting.
And it's also a 3-tiered system. So it has to go from the brewer to the retailer to the or distributor to the retailer.
Got it.
So there's so much taxation in that industry. So I learned a lot. And so when I got into real estate, what I realized really quickly is everyone was like, video, video, video. But I'm like, nobody is answering the question of the consumer. No one cares. No one knows Jesse enough and cares enough about me to care about my listing.
Yeah.
I'm not solving anyone's problem. So I said, Jackson, he was actually at the title company at that time. And we won't bore you with that story of how that came to be. But essentially we went all in on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, blog, like you name it. We were all in. I still have pictures to this day when we did our planning session. I post it sometimes and it shows everything. YouTube was idea 10.
Wow.
And so like through that process and through that, we saw YouTube starting to really start to get a significant amount of attention, because what we were doing is we were interviewing all these influencers and we would ask them, how many deals have you closed? All of them would say none from my content. One only ever said they closed deals, and they were doing YouTube. And what they were doing is they were taking their blogs from Google and just transitioning them into YouTube and talking like this, green screening. And so me and Jackson, we're like, all of those titles, I said, look at the ones that have the most views. They all have, they're all like optimized, like cost of living, pros and cons.
Yeah.
So Jackson was like, he took that idea and we started looking on YouTube. We were like, holy crap. On YouTube, it's searched 300,000 times. On Google, it's searched like 30. Jackson's like, dude, they want to know what it's like to live here. He's like, I relocated from Coeur d'Alene. I know what it's like to relocate. I know what these people are looking for. I lived in the same market my whole life. I had no idea, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't know at that time either that the number one consumer on YouTube would be relocation at that time. So we were trying listing videos, for sale by owner videos, all this. It was just a big giant mix of crap. But then we started seeing the cream rise to the top. And then somebody reached out to us through LinkedIn and said, hey, we've been watching you guys on YouTube. We didn't know how to get a hold of you. And then we met with our lender's partner, and he said, his boss, he said, your guys' video is great. Are you guys getting any deals? We're like, no. He's like, I tell you why, you need to put a call to action on the front side of that video. And so that's like in June of like 2021 or maybe 2020, Jackson, it was either 2019 or 2020. I can't remember the exact dates, but that's when Jackson dropped the first video with the CTA, and that like whole structure of like hook, call to action, video outro with the hook. That was like what we made famous. That's what put us on the map.
Yeah.
So the next day we dropped that video. Boom. It was 2019. Cause that's like before Heather came on board, when we had to hire.
Yeah.
Dude, the freaking phone exploded. And Jackson would called me freaking out. He's like, dude, I just spent 2 hours on the phone with this freaking client from Canada. And I'm like, did you get their name? Did you get their email? Like, what are they looking for? He's like, I have no idea, but it was awesome. And then that summer, I'm kind of like going backwards now of historical timeline, but that summer, Jackson didn't close a single deal. But he was like, he's such a people person that he was like friendly with everyone. He was guiding them around. He wasn't closing a single deal. That's why when at the end of the summer, I called Jackson, I'm like, how's it going? He's like, I haven't closed a single deal. Like, he was so excited. And I'm like, dude, give me all those leads. I said, you're done selling real estate. I just want you making content. I called all those leads. I brought like 17 people back, and I put 14 of them in contract in 30 days. Dude. And then that's like when we brought on Heather, we made the transition to EXP, and then everything exploded. But like everything we have done is from learning experience.
Yes.
And like when you're building the plane as you go, it's like you never know what's going to be what. So then when COVID ended, things really changed. And that's like when we shifted into the home tour style, because like our views started to come down. Some agents started popping in that were outperforming us, and we saw what they were doing. We knew what we had to do to get the eyes on the prize. And so we built like this hybrid of like long form home tours. And that's really what we've leaned into. And then, you know, I saw Adam Hancock, like I love that guy's stuff. And I saw his stuff early on and heard his story. And I saw his website, and I even reached out to him to ask him. He wasn't giving an inch on the secret sauce. I've told you this before. And then Beth Shadler was in our coaching program, and I saw her website. It looked like his. And I said, hey, who did that? And then she's like, oh, Liftoff agent connected me with you. And then now we've injected another layer into our business, which is the website. And I mean, I was just looking at the statistics, and I mean, it's generating tons of leads. And actually it was funny because like our first two leads that we contacted off the website, you know what they both said? And this is like what got me sold on like injecting this into our business.
What's that?
Is when JoJo reached out to him, they said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm talking to you." Both of them were sent our channel by their family members, and they were like, "We were never going to reach out to you." So it was just like it was just something that proved to me that I thought that we needed a piece of lower barrier entry point to like, because here's the truth, dude. For someone to pick up and call you after thinking you're a celebrity, and like what it's called like parasocial, when they turn you into a celebrity and think they have a relationship with you, dude, only 10% of people are ever going to call you, because those are the people that are outgoing and are going to just roll the dice and say like, I'm calling this person.
Why not? Yeah.
So if you can add another layer to like get them into your ecosystem early, that like creates more touch points and like softens that blow essentially.
I love
That's
that.
great. So when COVID was going on, it was very fast, very high quality leads, all the things. Now it's like, now the players are here to play and the cream's rising to the top. And we still did a significant amount of transactions last year. Now I'm like, all right, now when the market's slow, same in the brewing industry.
Yeah.
You have to refine your processes, get your systems in place, figure out how to add more fuel to the fire, you know, and to keep that business stoked and for the long-term play. So I also think adding the website, to me, it was all about positioning. There's a great book called Positioning. I love it. It talks about like, you can do anything, but how you position it in your business is like most importantly.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of the websites out there, a lot of the agents, they have you guys build it and then they don't do anything with it. That's on them. For me, I said I want it to be an extension of my YouTube channel.
Yes.
And I also want to be able to ping pong the viewers back and forth where they feel like it's an easy transition to go back and forth, and it to be a value add and not an instead of like an instead of. I don't want them to feel that they can go to my website and not get YouTube anymore, or vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think we've done an amazing job with integration, and I can see the results because I have other agents that work for me that have a website too, and I coach with them, and I try to get them to like bring it and to make it more cohesive to go back and forth. So that's what they're working on.
I love that. No, that's huge. That's huge, man. And wow, first off, congratulations. That's awesome. I can imagine anyone out there who's listening or viewing, mainly just viewing, could be listening as well. If you just, you know, I heard go to the gym and they're listening to this stuff, or driving in the car, because you shouldn't be watching this in the car. And I love the fact that you were just like, you failed forward, and there's some similarities here. So if y'all want to watch Jackson's episode, which is awesome, I like the fact that you have now integrated. So there's a seamless play from the perspective of the YouTube channel, the content, the website, going back and forth, adding additional value, because it's so true. I think after you are in that celebrity category, it's almost just like, nah, I don't think I want to make a phone call. Talk to that person. I love that. I love that. Good for you guys.
The other piece too about like the scaling piece, it's like, you know, Joshua Smith with GSD modes down there. That's why I'm even bringing this up.
Yeah.
He always said the reason that you guys were so good and so like explosive is because you and Jackson were 180 degrees out from each other, which I agree. In real estate business partnerships, a lot of agents will take two great listing agents and they're not amplifying their business.
Yeah.
They're fighting over that piece of the business. And then there's another big gap that's not being plugged with a buyer's agent or someone that's going to answer the calls for these clients. They better be just like you, because when you're calling for Jesse and I have someone that's like, say it was only me filming, and then you bring on someone that's like Jackson that answers the phone, you weren't closing any deals. And there wouldn't be a cohesiveness to that.
Yes.
So when you're finding someone to work with you as like a buyer's agent or like someone to answer the calls, they better be a reflection of your personality and your beliefs or whatever. If you're talking about that stuff or your morals, you know, it's like you can't be a family man and a creator and talk about family content and have this bachelor that's going out to the club every night when the calls, you know, because there's gonna be a massive disconnect.
Doesn't make sense at all. We see that a lot of times on Liftoff Agent. It's like you meet with these agents and you have these partnerships, and it's like, you know, we don't like to work with individuals that don't understand where does a relationship start and stop. And like that's what I love about you and your partner. You know, you have this yin and yang process and philosophy. And Jackson talked about it when I met him last. He talked about the fact that like the same story. He didn't close the deal, you know? And then he talked about how then he was like, okay, I'm going to film the content. Jesse's going to be the one who's going to close the deals. You're a master closer. He said it multiple times. You got to ask for the business, just like you got to have the CTAs and the videos, everyone out there that's viewing and watching, to then have success with that process of conversion. And that's where I feel like Smith and I, you know, not that people know, but you know, we have a good yin and yang. He's on the back end, he's on the tech side. I'm the visionary, I'm the cheerleader on the front end, and you got to have that cohesiveness. That's what is nice about working with a company outside of like any of these companies out there that just want to scale. Our philosophy isn't so much scale, it's go deeper. And that's why we're having these conversations with you, and we're doing webinars with Adam Hancock. We'll be doing one tomorrow with him, and really just pouring into our industry. I think it's less about the dollars and more about how do we grow? How do we scale? How do we help one another? How do we get to what's next for our industry?
Being a value add. And I think I've had a lot of success, and that's like the same thing. Like when you're like, oh, I gave Smith 50%. Jackson, when I brought him on as my assistant from the title company, I gave him 25% out of the gate of all of my closings. And I had, dude, he probably told it, like I basically saved him from going bankrupt. And I already had those deals in escrow. And I said, look, I don't know what's going to happen, but I need someone to help me take it to the next level. And you have this great skill set of video. I don't. And when that business surpasses, dude, this is before we even started any of that stuff. I said, when the business that we generate passes my business, we'll split everything 50-50 down the line.
Yeah.
It wasn't less than a year later, dude, is when things like really went full scale. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, when you're a value add and you're not thinking about the dollars.
Yes.
The dollars will be an after effect of you taking the right steps forward. So when I look at my organization, even here at EXP, and I have 400 agents. Our average agent last year sold over 8 houses.
Wow.
In an organization that big, and that's I really pride myself in the fact that the agents in our organization are producing agents. I can see it in my revenue share. I can see it in a lot of different things and how much each agent contributes, because they give us the standard of like what the organization directly contributes per agent, and we're significantly higher than the average. And with the bigger organization, that's very impactful. I like to give tools to agents that actually work, and also work with agents that want to take it to the next level. Because, dude, let's just be real. 90% of agents fail in their first 2 years. And it isn't, and right now, agents are either surviving, barely surviving, falling off quick. And then there's agents that are going crazy. The agents that are going crazy are the ones that are just doing the work. And they're doing the right work. So I love the saying, if it works on Monday, do it again on Tuesday, and then do it again on Wednesday, and just keep going. So
I love that. It's so true. And it's it's one thing to scale fast and get large and whatever. Like if we're use the terms of like, we'll say like a tech company, for example, Liftoff agent, it's more beneficial to go slow, build the relationships. We pride ourselves at Liftoff Agent, where if you go online and do any research or call any of our clients, there is no negative commentary, because we don't do what we do for profit and for the money. We do what we do to serve and support. And, the industry itself, like you said, like 90% of the business is done by top 10% of real estate professionals. And you have some that are really well and some that are about getting out of the business, and it's education first. And you have so many companies that are like, oh, we got the best social platform. We got the best website. We got the best coaching. We got all these things. But then I just did a video before we got on air here, and posted it just from the perspective of like, go through your P&L, look at your bank statement. Who are you paying? And is the organization or service provider in your best interest? Even the coach, like, are they aligned with where you want to go? Are you seeing some type of return on investment with a service provider you're paying, or a coach that's supposed to support you? Like, we have to check ourselves in order to have success and reflect in the mirror, or we're going to wreck ourselves because we're just like, we get comfortable. We don't push ourselves. We don't try to go any further with anything. And like, even with you, I know you're busy, and I wanted to take this opportunity. And that's why I text you once and you're busy, text you again. And you're like, all right, let's get this scheduled.
I want to do it in person.
Well, hey, we could do that. I'm down. So this isn't even the podcast. This is just content for our YouTube channel. And then we still have opportunities with Real Estate First Technology, and still opportunities for the Liftoff experience. And so we'll get you in person. We actually just had yesterday, shout out Craig. He was, I guess he's been following us, Real Estate First Technology, almost 500 episodes for a couple of years now, 3, 4, 5 years. And he was up in Canada, and he followed me on social. And the next thing you know, his family's in Scottsdale. And he flew out specifically just to come to Real Estate First Technology. He flew in yesterday and came on the show. I'm like, what the heck? He's like, dude, he's like, you've grown tremendously. I've been watching you for years. And like, he's like, I don't subscribe because he's in his 50s. He's like, I don't subscribe because I don't want to pay for anything. I come from a background of like, if you subscribe, you're paying money. So I don't subscribe. I don't like, but I've been following you for like 3-4 years now. I'm like, dude, that is so cool. He's like, yeah, man, congratulations. He's like, I'm going to go further on content.
Yeah. Going back to the point you just talked about, like the goal. And this is the thing, because like we're talking about massive business right now, right? Like, dude, I bet 90% of the people watching, they're like, I don't ever want to do $97 million in sales. And I'm going to tell you, dude, it ain't for everyone.
No.
I have a very leveraged model with the way that we set it up. Like, I'm not out in the trenches selling real estate. And I was on another podcast just a little bit ago, and he was telling me that one of the his personal friends was in our program, and he's like, this agent did $400,000 last year in GCI off of YouTube.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, this is a really good example. And like, my wife runs her channel. She generated $375 off of her channel last year.
Let's go.
Another agent answers her calls, closes the business. She's not involved with it all. She films every other Saturday for 6 hours. She has a videographer. He does her editing and everything. A year ago, she actually used to do it all on her own. She would film, she would edit. She hired an editor in the Philippines, but it took her 3 days. I asked her, I said, what would make your life a lot easier, and where do you want to get your time back? She said, like, honestly, filming is what kills me. It's 3 days, getting all the clips prepped and all the things. So let me find you an editor or a videographer. Brought this guy in. He now runs my agency. He actually lives here locally. So he films with her now every other Saturday for 6 hours. That's the whole process for getting ready, filming. That's 2 videos worth of content. He edits it, all the things. And she got tons of time back. She did $375 last year. She splits out with another agent. He left his corporate job making $60 a year, comes in, makes now $175 or more, tripled his business income. He doesn't have to generate leads. He closes it for them. That's another scalable model, and it gives some of their time back. But she's like, look, my goal is to make 100,000 off of just YouTube doing this alone. She's like, and then so last year when he came in, her business doubled.
Okay.
Second half versus first half, they ended up closing about 12 million in GCI, or sorry, not GCI, in closed production.
Okay.
It was 375 in GCI. Go to this year, Q1, they've already closed 50% of what they did last year in GCI. And so that's what I'm talking about. It's about, what is your goal? What do you want the outcome to be? And then now how much more juice can we squeeze from that orange? Because here's the thing. If you're working 6 hours every other Saturday, can we turn that machine from a $100,000 a year, which is what she used to do when she was doing everything? I'll do it in 375 last year. This year, it's going to go over 500.
Wow.
By working less and doing the exact same thing that she was doing. So how can you leverage that? Obviously, the delta from hiring the resources needs to outweigh the other piece. And she's smart. She has me managing her agent.
Wow.
I manage her videographer, so she doesn't have to do anything but show up on scene and do what we told her to do.
Huge.
So I love repeating that story, because a lot of moms get into real estate for freedom of schedule. Dude, real estate is part-time all the time. There's no freedom. Welcome to entrepreneurship. Dana White says it all the time. People tell me they want to become an entrepreneur because they want this freedom of schedule. He just says, like, good luck, dude. You're going to get kicked in the face. It's 24/7. And that's what I love when someone told me, they said real estate is part-time all the time.
Yes.
I actually, when I was in high school, I was like, I'm going to be a chef. Dude, until I learned, this was like in 9th grade, until I learned they work holidays and weekends. And I'm like, forget that. And then what do I in the industry where you're working nights and weekends, right? So it's always about, what is your goal? So if you're sitting here watching this, you're like, my goal is to make 100K. Awesome. I know how to do that. My goal is to make 500K. Awesome. I know how to do that. My goal is to make $1 million. Awesome. I know how to do that. The reality is, when there's no money being invested in those ideas, or even like on the donation, that's a different situation, but like with partnerships or whatever, dude, making quick decisions or making quick actions, like I was saying, is like, I'm very quick to see it, because I'm also really good at identifying opportunities. And I also live by this creed, is execute with a sense of urgency. And I love Leo, at the CEO of EXP, says that. And when I was in corporate America in the brewing industry, they always used to say, like, look, if the shelf is empty, like at retail, you can't go back to yesterday and get those dollars collected. So
Oh,
that always stuck with me. And I try to do everything as fast as I can. And when you're building things fast and doing it fast, things will break. But I love Phil Knight, the owner of Nike. What he says is he goes, don't let people and your consumers see the 90% of the crap going on behind the scenes. And even Richard Branson says this, the CEO of Virgin. He
mhm.
says, I tell all of the people that work with me, I want you to go as fast as possible. I don't care how dirty and messy things gets, but when we deliver the final product, let it look perfect.
Huge.
Don't let the deliverable product be broken. That's
Yes.
what Phil Knight talks about too in his book, Shoe Dog. He's like, we are just going full steam ahead, and I want you guys to deliver a great product, but do behind the scenes. Let's let things.
That's awesome. No, as you've been talking, I can imagine as a viewer or listener, they can just imagine like, what does Jesse have going on, behind the scenes, how many revenue streams, how many projects, things going on, the whole nine. So I can imagine getting you back on in person, and we'll have to get you on the Liftoff experience. I think that would be 2 hours long opportunity to go through like the balance of things and all of it, because at the end of the day, I agree, you got to move fast. Momentum is everything, and at the end of the day, like, yeah, you hit that $100,000 and then you're like, okay, what's next? And there's always like that what's next.
Oh yeah.
And that's where it's like you gotta just say, okay, like, you're just gonna cruise at 100? No.
Well,
250, a million.
it isn't about the thing. The materialistic thing is the thing I'm rewarding myself with. It's the
Yeah.
fact that I'm a natural born entrepreneur, and I feel like I still have more to do. And that's is what truly fulfills me. And I'm the same way. I'm like, I feel that my wife is like, when are you going to retire? When are you going to retire? I'm like, I could have retired already. I just love the hustle and the grind.
Yeah.
And you can probably tell I'm like a very fast processor.
Yeah.
So like I can figure out the pieces of the puzzle. Actually, when I worked in the brewing industry, that was my final job. Was I identified the biggest opportunities at retail
Okay.
with like inches of space.
Mm.
So that's all I would look at is data all day long and like figure out where the biggest
Yeah.
opportunities were, the stuff that we already had. And that was it was like, it could have been the most boring job in the world. But like when you see massive movement on hundreds of millions of dollars in inches of space, it is the craziest thing you've ever seen in your life.
Wow, dude, I love that.
Dude, because when you see like one item go out at like in a million places that a million people are going to see in physical with their eyes,
Yeah.
you start to understand the importance of influence with social media. Because here's the deal, our freaking YouTube channel has like 7 million views and like just so many millions of viewed hours of content.
Yeah.
It's like you don't even know the people that are watching you. I was at the freaking Phoenix Zoo, dude, at night talking, and someone's like, "Is that Jesse Dow from the freaking Living in Portland channel?" And I'm
Oh my God.
like, I literally thought I worked with this guy, and he looked like this guy I used to work with. I'm like,
Yeah.
Tony? He's like, you have no idea who I am, do you? I'm like, I have no idea. He goes, dude, I've been watching your YouTube channel for 5 years. And I'm
Wow.
like, in a whole nother state. I was like, this is crazy. He's like, yeah, my wife and I live here in Phoenix and we're moving to Portland. I was like, it's funny. I live in Phoenix now, back then. And I went to the Christmas lights at the zoo.
Dude.
It was funny, dude.
It's awesome. Yeah, and you never know who's watching. I love the fact that you want to keep moving forward and striving for more. And I love Herzog's like thought process on that. And I like to spin it off on my side and look at it as experiences and like nice things, whether it's watches or cars or jets or whatever. One is experience, and two, you can share it with someone else. And three, you never know who's going to be inspired by you because of what you achieved. And all it is, honestly, is a trophy. It's literally just a trophy. It's a trophy. It's like, okay, I did this. Now I earned that. But then take it to the next step. Now you're getting into philanthropy. And now you're serving and supporting organizations and supporting generations to come, right? And that's already in my mind as far as what's next. It's like, we'll go to schools, motivational speak, do all this type of stuff. Like, I'm now personally going to go speak with a biohacker type guy. He's a naturopath, and I want to get to the next level of health. So I could, because he said something yesterday. I was talking to the doctor. He's like, you got to make sure that your tank is filled. So you're pouring from abundance. So then that person's tank will be filled and they'll pour back into you with abundance. You can't pour from an empty cup, because then you're just going to give them the scraps. And I'm like, oh my God, so true.
Oh yeah. I mean, the old saying is in real estate, it's make a million, earn a million, give a million. And this is the thing. It's like, dude, when you're at the give a million, I mean, when you become like a public servant and you're serving the public, I mean, you see it all the time in politics. The people that are there for the money piece, they're dirtbags, dude, and they're usually corrupt. It's the people that are true servant leaders are the ones that like are making the biggest impacts and taking the biggest strides, whether you're in support of that person or not. You can see it on both sides. It happens for real. And it's the same thing in our industry. And I think of decisions that I make. I'm like, I guess the first thing that I always think is like, if I die today, like, would this operation still continue on and like pay people?
I love that.
Because when you're making decisions for other people, like Joe Rogan talked about this too. He's like, Schultz was asking him when I watched their interview, he goes, are you ever scared of like making decisions like in your business? And he's like, no. He was like, I literally just, I know that I'm as long as I'm paying the bills and helping the people here. He's like, that's all I really care about. He's like, obviously if I was super spread thin, it'd be a whole nother situation. And I think about that too, with like our Channel Junkies agency. I mean, there's been times where, dude, we were making no money in that business and I had 13 VAs.
Wow.
And for me, I'm like, I don't need the money, dude. I'm spending so much time on this and, you know, agents complaining, there's problems with this and that, you know, you're taking on everyone. So you're trying to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And you're not making the smartest decisions in that regard because you're not being selective and you're maybe not charging enough. And you're just doing that for the other people. So, and what you can give to people is way more valuable than maybe what you see it is. Like, dude, $400 in the Philippines, dude, that's like life-changing money over there. Here, $400, you can go out and blow that at like lunch.
Yeah.
With a group of people.
Yes.
Dude, that's a month of salary to a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah, we're just at 20 in the Philippines and they're amazing. Like they're absolutely amazing. And so I love pouring into them and serving them and supporting them. And we do this Monday motivation kickoff every single week and they absolutely love it. And then I spend time every single month and I just go for 30 minutes. I speak to every single person one-on-one and they're dumbfounded. They're like, oh my God. I think anyone out there that has individuals overseas, Philippines, India, whatever, like spend time with them, act as you are a human and that you want to understand what they have going on in their personal life. And then we went to Bohol, Philippines last year in October and brought like 30 of us to like an amazing oasis, like inside outside resort. And they were all just like dumbfounded. And so it's the little things that you can do that is 100% tied to your legacy. It's not about the money you make. It's how you show up for people. And then they see how you show up and how you're like just a servant and wanting to see them win. And then they're like, whoa. And then they work that much harder for you and then that much harder for the client. And then it's just like symbiotic win-win. Everyone's loving it. Everyone's having a great time.
Every time I go to pay them, I heard Joe Rogan say this because he was talking about tipping.
Yeah.
He's like, I always give every server $1,000 tip.
Ooh.
And he's like they were like, what, why? And he's like, I'm not going to miss $1,000. And so like, I was thinking about that. Like when I go to pay the employees, I'm always like, can I, like, if I give them 50 extra bucks, it's going to change their life. Am I going to miss $50? No, dude. Like, I'm never going to miss $50.
No.
So it's like, it's so interesting to like how you quantify all of these different things. And going back to your thing about the trophy, it's all just a trophy at the end of the day. We're not taking any of this with us when we leave, but it's like, can I impact the people? What they found out is that the second richest generation or age range of people is 60 to 65. The number one richest age demographic is 65 to 70. So you become richer when you're retired. And then what they saw and what their studies showed is that people are saving to give their kids the money when they die, but typically the kids don't need the money. And what they realized is that the kids said that they would have rather have had the experiences with their parents. But when the parents get to that age, they don't want to travel anymore. So what they're encouraging you to do is to have these experiences with your kids when you all can enjoy them together.
Wow, dude, that is amazing. And I'm right there with you. I don't know who out there is listening, viewing can relate to this. Come from nothing. And now I'm a cycle breaker in my family and my daughter's now 6. And then she sees all these things, right? And this is like, you want to then try to help her understand that this isn't, so we take her to the Philippines and we'll be in California this coming up weekend. And like, we are always traveling. She's been all over the place. And it's so true. It's like people think that like, you know, and even this life insurance stuff, it's huge right now. It's blowing up. It's like, yeah, leave a legacy and all this type of stuff. It's like, dude, if I was to leave anything, it would be a crazy scavenger hunt that my kids would have to go on to like find like clues to get to like the treasure at the end. And it would be something just like a video of me and my wife just reminding them that like do good, be good, serve others. Like it would be something super hilarious like that. But yeah, dude, it's interesting how money is definitely changes the perception of things, and then we can lose our values, our morals, and understand that it's nothing but a tool.
Dude, the book you need to read if that's what you're going to do for your kids, you got to read this book. It's called The Greatest Gift.
The Greatest Gift.
This
Okay.
guy dies. He's like this massive business owner, and he dies, and he leaves all of the family, all these things. And there's one like family relative, it's like his grandson or nephew, that's kind of like this like greedy kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, the attorney is like, I have a video for you. And basically the grandpa's like, you're getting the greatest gift. And he's like, you're going to go and do this thing. And so he goes through like these 12 tasks throughout the book. I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Okay.
It's called The Greatest Gift. And
Interesting.
dude, it's a short read.
Okay.
It's not like super like riveting, but it's freaking, for what you're saying, dude, it's like perfect.
That's huge. That's huge. No, that's definitely, I think that anyone viewing and listening is something to think about. When you think about this whole entire show we just recorded, it's like, what are you committed to? Where do you want to go? What type of income do you want to bring in? Like, you don't have to work so hard, right? You leverage to be able to help you be able to have more time and freedom to do what we just talked about. Mm-hmm. Travel with your kids, go explore the world, go do fun things. And I think the coolest thing that I like to say is like life by design. I used to play Grand Theft Auto. Now, like, I live the real life Grand Theft Auto with the good stuff, none of the bad stuff. And so just being able to do what you want, when you want, how you want, and travel and just enjoy and just experiences. And that's why I love social and stories, and why I'm so loud on stories, hence where I met my wife on Instagram, and our old podcast host for Realty First Technology, Dan Gandy, who's up in Oregon. And so just going out and just sharing all these cool, awesome experiences to hopefully inspire just one person to go do more in their own lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about. You never know what's going to happen. And that's the thing, is like, a lot of people see these big businesses, or like, people doing all these things, like, it's all social flash, whatever.
Yeah.
It's all one action step at a time. And if you don't take the action, it's never going to happen.
Yes.
And I would go to this call every Thursday. It's for the top 250 EXP agents. And they bring in John Sheplack's there every month.
Okay.
He says, if it works on Monday, do it on Tuesday. If it works on Tuesday, do it on Wednesday. And so like, I made this list, and I was like, and on this one call, every time I'm in there, I have this notepad for his calls. And I write down, he's like, I guarantee you, he's like, I come in here. He's like, I say the same thing every week or every month. And he goes, I'll bet you 99% of you have never done the things that I say to do. So I went and looked at the list, and he said the same thing every week, and I never did it. I was like, dude, I'm like, all right. I'm like, I'm a victim also sometimes of the thing, but also I have to like put things into the hierarchy of my needs of business purposes at that time. So like, honestly, like calling 50 people a day is not on my radar. Like that's never going to happen. So, but the things that I had on that list, which there was like 3 I could have done, which I've done now.
That's awesome. But you never know. There's a tech CEO that ended up selling his company, and then he ended up working for Amazon. He just said, I'm going to work for Amazon, and I'm just going to be in the front line. I'm going to be in the warehouse, and I'm just going to like, just do the thing, just to learn something new, and just to have different contrasts and perspective. Because the one thing that I've learned is once you do get to a certain level and you start to experience the things or have the whatever, then you find out that it's just a thing. And then the only thing that really gives you satisfaction from the thing, like a jet or a supercar or whatever, is like sharing it with someone else. And then they light up, and then it gives you that spark again. Because at the end of the day, here today, gone tomorrow. It is what it is.
So, comes from contribution.
Yeah, 100%. But man, this has been phenomenal. And I think this is great, Jess. I'm glad that you came on, Jesse, because now this gives us an opportunity to think about like, and now I have a lot more to think about to get you onto the other show. So we can get you onto a 2-hour show with a Liftoff experience. We just launched that at the end of last year. So y'all gonna have to stay tuned for that. And you have plenty of books. I'm going to be downloading Die With Nothing, The Greatest Gift. I got a couple books to download. I don't know what you guys are going to download, but you can comment down below with.
If anyone looks, so I'm a book machine, dude.
Okay.
I've probably read every book in the world. If you want a great book for social media, Contagious is a really good book.
Oh yeah. Contagious. Someone else told me about that too. Someone else told me about that Contagious. I'm gonna actually, you know what? I've read that one. That is a good book. You all should check it out. But check out Jesse. Check out Channel Junkies. Give the man a follow, and it's awesome because I feel like what you see in today's world, and I talked to Craig about this yesterday, is you see like the videos,
Mhm.
you see the numbers, you see the 400 individuals underneath the downline, the team EXP with what you are doing and your partner Jackson. But then sometimes it's nice just to open the hood and look underneath and analyze and understand that like you are a human, and then how are you a human going through this process and doing the things that you're doing, and how do you know what buttons to push when and how to make it all work. And so that's what I'm excited for, to leave these viewers on a cliffhanger for the next show, because I think people need to realize that like you have a systematic process of what you do. They kind of heard a little bit about it in the beginning of the show. You are a human, you're not a robot.
I'll give them one good thing, and
All
this
right.
is first for you too.
Okay.
I will be down there at the end of April in
Okay.
Arizona. I'm flying into
Okay.
Phoenix. I'm actually flying in before my wife comes in, so that way I
Okay.
can do some business. We will book the call in person. And by that date, this thing I was telling you about is going to be announced. So we'll be 2 weeks into it, and I'll be able to talk about that and why we did it.
Ooh, I love it. All right. So after the call, I'm going to send you the link for the Liftoff experience. We're going to get you here to my personal house. My wife will probably give us some homemade sourdough. We'll have some tea
Nice.
time, and we'll record on the show. And I just want everyone to know out there, like Jesse and I have never met before. And it was because, just to be 100% transparent, it's because of, I've been doing this for 10, 11 years now. And because of my hard work and dedication and perseverance, and then Adam Hancock and a few clients is what put us on the radar for Jesse. And if it wasn't for what we did, there would be no opportunity for us to even have this communication or conversation. I didn't cold call
Just
Jesse, and I didn't even premeditate our call today. This is
just
100%
think about that, dude.
organic.
I was literally wanting what you had for over 2 years.
Wow.
And I just wasn't like, I literally was like, oh, Adam must have created this thing. Like he isn't going to share it with me. And it just went off my radar. It wasn't until Beth came into my coaching program and
Yeah.
I saw your stuff was actually branded on her website where his
Mm-hmm.
wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So then her and I had a conversation because actually I was like really into her branding, which we just hired her designer to do the branding for my wife's channel.
Nice. Okay.
And that's why we just now sent it to you guys last week. That's been our holdup. But then like, dude, just seeing that, like, I'm like, dude, could you imagine, like, it's like your wife, you like she was out there for 30 years before I met her. And then it took like this chance encounter, it's like when opportunity meets the preparation.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe you weren't ready. Who knows?
Yeah.
But here we are today. And like you said, dude, it's like, now it's like,
it's amazing. Yeah. I watched this guy on YouTube, the Strad man, shout out James. And he's like, always says in his videos, every single moment in time had to happen exactly the way that it happened for me to be in this specific moment in time, buying this car, doing this thing, whatever it is. And so, yeah, it was faith, man. It was faith. And that's why I feel like people need to realize, like, it doesn't matter how you need to get where you need to go. Just know and hold on to that thought vibration of like what it is that you want to achieve, and imagine how cool it would feel to have that house, to have that trip, to have that partner, whatever it is. And before you know it, the universe, God, spirit, Jesus Christ, whatever you want to say, whatever you believe in, it'll come. It'll come. It's crazy, dude. But Jesse, man, thanks so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. And it's nice when there's that organic flow, and that's how we like to partake with our content. Because at the end of the day, I don't know, enough fluff out there, right? Let's just vibe out.
yeah.
Awesome, bro. Well, take care. Have an amazing rest of your day. Like, subscribe, notification bell. Stay tuned for Liftoff Experience, 2 hours in-person podcast episode. We're going to hear about the goods. What is this huge thing, this catalyst, this next level that next thing that Jesse is going to be doing with Jackson, and I'm excited to hear about it, man. So yeah, I'll send you that link, and have an amazing rest of your day, bro.
You too, man.
All right, y'all. Until the next one.